This is the new Cupra Leon 300 and it's effectively Cupra, which is Seat in sporty format. It's their version of the Volkswagen GTI Clubsport. In this video I'm going to talk you through the upgrades over the normal Seat Leon, show you the outside, the inside, talk you through the chassis upgrades, the engine upgrades. I'm going to take it for a drive and I'm going to launch it to see how quick it is from 0 to 60 miles an hour and over the standing quarter, and I'm going to brake test it as well, and hopefully that'll help make this day more exciting, because at the moment it's pretty blooming dreary, isn't it?
Buying a new car? Then head to CarWow and my team will help you find your next car at a fair price. CarWow, your one-stop car buying comparison site.
Let's kick off this video by talking about the price. So the Cupra Leon starts from £31,500, though this 300 version costs from £35,000. This particular vehicle I have here with the optional paint and the panoramic roof, £37,000 for this car. Thankfully, you can save an average of almost £700 on a Cupra Leon through CarWow. And if you click on the pop-out banner up there, you can go to CarWow to see how much money you can save. Alternatively, after this video, you can just simply Google "Help Me CarWow," and my team and I will help you choose the right car for you and get it for a fair price from one of our trusted dealers. Right, now I'm going to talk you through the design upgrades over the normal Seat Leon. So you get a bigger roof spoiler, you obviously have your Cupra badging there with the weird logo that's like a pair of angry forceps, and there's lots of copper. Copper is the colour of Cupra. You got that? Also you got a sportier rear bumper with a diffuser, and apparently it does do something. It improves the aero by 8%. Wow. Then you've got quad tailpipes. Now, they're not really fake, but they're not exactly genuine either, because they are surrounds, they're enhancements, because in there are some smaller pipes, but there are 4 of them still, so it's not a complete lie. At the side, the Cupra Leon has black window surrounds, you've got privacy glass at the rear, you've got grey door mirrors, there's also copper brake calipers, we've got copper coloured wheels as well. They're 18 inches as standard on the 245 horsepower model, but on this 300 you get 19s as standard, and the car sits on low suspension. It's 25 millimeters lower at the front and 20 millimeters lower at the back compared to the standard Seat Leon. Here at the front, changed over a normal Seat Leon, include this more kind of aggressive pointy grille, and yet again the copper forceps for the Cupra badge, and a much more aggressive lower bumper. So it's got winglets on it, it's got a splitter on it, you've got vents here, they're real vents, but wait a minute, is the vent over that side fake? We need the stick of truth. Bring on the stick of truth. We haven't had it in for a while. Look at this, we've upgraded our stick of truth. Yes, it appears that those vents, they are fake. Overall though, I think this is a really aggressive, cool looking car. It's especially good in this optional matte blue paint. Costs 800 quid extra, but it's definitely worth it because it really does help this car stand out. Now I'm going to talk you through all the chassis upgrades on this car. So I've already mentioned that the suspension is lower, but obviously the spring rates are stiffer as well to reduce body roll. You also get adaptive dampers as standard, and they have quite a wide range of operations. So starting off with the comfiest setting here, look how many different stages there are. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, come on, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Sorry, that was a bit stumbly, but this touchscreen is a bit of an arse at times. Oh, look, what's it doing? See that? There's an electronically controlled limited slip differential on the front axle, and on the 300 version, it's even more aggressive. So that's designed to send power to the front wheel, which has the most grip, to help rocket you out of corners. The Cupra version of the Leon has upgraded brakes over the standard Leon. So the normal 245 horsepower model gets 340mm discs up front, whereas the 300 horsepower car gets 370mm discs. Oh, and the Brembo calipers, 4-piston calipers, which actually have an Audi logo on them. So you've got brakes meant for an Audi on your Seat. Sorry, your Cupra. It's a Seat with a silly badge. Now I'm going to do a brake test from 70 miles an hour. We're going to see how long it takes this car to stop. What distance will it do it in? Here we go, brake time. What does the specialist timing gear say? Okay, so it stopped from 70 miles an hour in 45 meters, which is about average for these kind of cars. Not terrible, but not brilliant. But of course, the track is wet. So actually, I reckon if it wasn't wet, we'd have a bit less ABS and we'd have probably done maybe a 43 meters, which would have been fantastic. Those 2 meters can make all the difference, you know. That's why you should not drive quite so quickly when it's raining. Okay, folks? Safety warning there from Carwow. Thanks for listening. This car is available with 3 engine choices. So there's a 1.4 turbo petrol plus an electric motor, so a plug-in hybrid, and that has 245 horsepower. Or there's the normal 2-litre turbo petrol, which has 245 horsepower, or there's this 300, which is also a 2-litre turbo petrol, but as the name suggests, it has 300 horsepower and 400 newton meters of torque. And it drives the front wheels via a 7-speed automatic gearbox with dual clutches and launch control, and I'll launch it in a bit. Before I launch this car, I'm going to talk you through the interior upgrades over the standard Seat Leon. So you have a leather sports steering wheel with a flat bottom, the Cupra logo, and lots of copper everywhere. So it's copper, 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 Copacabana, the hottest hotspot north of Havana. Embarrassing. Though this copper does help lift this cabin. So the normal Seat Leon's cabin is pretty nice in terms of the design, but it is a bit dull. And these accents just really help it, as does the stitching here and the stitching on the seats. Speaking of which, these sporty seats are quite nice. They've got big side supports there to stop you flailing around when you're hooning around the corners, yet they're still quite comfy to sit in. Some other things you get on this car are Cupra floor mats, which look kind of cool, though I'm not so sure about the carbon fibre stitching on them. It's a bit weird. There's Cupra on the kick plates, and you get some aluminium pedals as well. But that is about it. Oh, apart from the Cupra graphics you get on the digital dials and on the infotainment system as well. Speaking of which, the infotainment system, same you get in the Golf, which means that it's a bit of a fiddle. The interface is slightly different, but it's the same thing working away beneath it. And you have the horrible blooming temperature controls here as well, which are a sliding dial, which you can't see when it's dark because they're not backlit. Not a big fan of this infotainment system, if I'm brutally honest. It's a little bit. Here in the back, you get a similar design on the seats as in the front, and yet again the leather. And look, more copper. You also get the Cupra floor mats with even more fake carbon fibre on them. I'm not really sure about that. What I am sure about is the fact that, look, headroom's really good here, knee room's really good. In fact, it's slightly bigger in the back than the equivalent Golf GTI, which is a good thing. The final element of practicality, the boot. I like the way that the badge is also the boot release. It's nice. Capacity is 380 litres, so it's fairly decent. Problem is, that's actually 1 litre less than you can carry in a VW Golf GTI. 1 litre. Imagine if you just needed to have 381 litres and you had this car. You'd be really cross, wouldn't you? Seriously though, one thing that is not quite as good as the Golf is the fact that you can't get an adjustable false floor. So when you fold down these rear seats, if I can get to them, you end up with a bit of a ridge. Look, go on, go down. Look, can you see that? Ridge. Yeah, and that brings on to 5 or 9 things about the new Cupra Leon. You can't get this car with a manual gearbox, which for a supposed driver's car is a bit disappointing, really. There are a couple of things that bother me about this car underneath the bonnet. The first is the fact that for something that costs £37,000, I'd like gas struts to hold it up, rather than one of these things. Also, they haven't tried this engine cover, no logo or anything. This is just super boring. And then there's the fact that if you get the estate version of this car, it is available with 4-wheel drive, and it gets an extra 10 horsepower, so 310 horsepower. Why can't you get it with a hatchback? It's so that people still buy the VW Golf R, because if this was available with 4-wheel drive as a hatchback and with 310 horsepower, you just have this instead. The integrated headrests of the front seats really do block your view if you're sat in the back, which can be a bit annoying if you're someone like me who suffers a little bit from car sickness and you need to be able to see where you're going. Also, these cutouts here do look cool, but if you've got kids in the back and they're bored, they might just entertain themselves by jabbing you in the neck like that. These large wheels are quite easy to curb because they sit relatively proud to the tyre, and because you've got this copper coating on them, you really do notice it if you curb them. I mean, look at the mess that this wheel is in. Now, that wasn't me, it was the journalist that had it before me, but it really does stand out. That's horrible. These aluminium pedals do look cool, but because the edges are quite aluminium-y and there's not much rubber on the edge, if you go to suddenly hit the brake and you don't connect dead square, you can just slide off when you've got wet feet because it's raining outside, like today. See that? Not good.
Thankfully, this car has plenty of cool features to help make up for all this. Here's 5.
I like the way you got the starter button on the steering wheel and the driving mode select here as well. So you can be driving along and you can change driving mode like that, dead easy, without having to take your eye off the road. Also, You've got a stability control off button here, which is easy to get to, so you can quickly dab that if you want to go into like the sporty handling mode, and you need to have that disengaged slightly if you are going to engage launch control. Engage, disengage, and you get the idea. While this Cupra layout may seem rather expensive at £35,000, which indeed it is, it's actually pretty decent value when you compare it to a Golf GTI. For instance, the normal Golf GTI with 245 horsepower with a DSG gearbox is only £10 cheaper than this. So you can pay an extra £10 and you get an extra 55 horsepower and a load of extra kit as well, such as 3-zone climate control and leather interior. The 300 model comes with grippy Bridgestone Potenza S5. Is that S5s or is that, I don't know. Anyway, these branded tyres, they're grippy, they're good for track days and stuff like that. And look, oh, they're made in Poland. Cześć. Yes to Matthew, odd bit. These seats may be sporty, but they're also quite practical because look, you've got IC6 anchor points here, so you can actually mount a child seat here in the front as well as in the back. A fun car that's family friendly. Cupra's engineers took a Golf GTI Clubsport and then they basically finessed every parameter, like the electronics such as the throttle response, the stability control, the steering geometry, all those kind of things, and just tweaked them ever so slightly to make the car just that little bit better, that little bit sharper. It's a little bit how these editors who edit these videos that you enjoy take my raw footage, which is all right, and then they finesse it to make it sharper, snappier, more engaging. Okay, let's see what this car is like to drive. I'm going to start off in comfort mode. It's not bad. Comfort mode is reasonably comfortable. There is of course still a firmish edge to the suspension because you're in a sporty motor with big wheels, but it's not bad at all. Deals with bumps okay. Much better than you might expect from a car with such sporty capabilities. So as a daily, you're going to be fine in it. You do notice a bit of noise from the road because of those big tyres, and I don't think the sound insulation inside this car is just quite as good as in the equivalent Golf, so they're a little bit more relaxing on the motorway. It's not that big a deal. Let's see how this thing responds when I put my foot down. Let's go to 50. I mean, normal comfort mode, automatic. There we go. A wee moment and then it's off. And it's off pretty good. I'm going to flip it into sports mode. If I was on a twisty road, that's probably what I'd go for because you've got a halfway house in terms of your steering weight, your throttle response, your gearbox response, and the adaptive suspension fitted to this car. So it's actually quite a good medium. Now, of course, you can just set up the car exactly as you want it, so you could have comfort for the suspension and then the most extreme sporty setting for all the other parameters. But I'm going to put it into Cupra mode now, which is the hardcore, most focused version of the car, and now the suspension is quite bouncy. This is what you're going to be doing on track. This is how you will have it, and it feels fully hooked up. It really has a race car feel to it. The way it's slightly bouncy, but you feel it like gripping as well at the same time. It is impressive. Now I'm going manual mode for the gearbox, so I'm taking control. Changes up very fast. Let's check it on the downshift. Bit slow on the downshift, it's a bit more mushy on the change down, but still generally it's very quick. When you've got the suspension in the firmest setting, this car feels flat, flat, flat in the corners, it really does. The steering's really good and direct. When you first start turning, it does respond. It doesn't have quite the finesse of the steering in a Honda Civic Type R. Now, if you click on the pop-out banner up there, you can watch my full in-depth video review of that car. And I think this is just a little bit back from the Civic Type R in terms of outright driver fun and especially performance on track. That's a little bit better, but it's close. It's really close. And the front diff, you can really feel it hooking to haul you out of a corner. It really does. You can feel it biting away and just putting the power down very, very well. This feels like quite a thing. They've done a good job with this. I've actually driven the VW Golf Clubsport and I prefer this. It feels a little bit more planted. The Clubsport's a bit more agile, whereas this is a bit more like, right, I'm just going to put in some good lap times, and it feels like it would deliver. This Cupra layout is supposed to do 0 to 60 in 5.7 seconds. I'm going to launch it. It's raining. Wet track. What's it going to do? So I've got it in Cupra mode, I've got the stability control in sports mode. Now I can launch it, left foot on the brake, floor the throttle, here we go. It's just spinning up its wheels. Now it's on it, and it's still spinning in second and hopping. Let's continue for the quarter mile. 5.53 to 60. Imagine if it put its power down. Then 13.72 for the quarter mile on a wet track. And they're claiming 5.7 seconds. This will do 5 seconds on a good dry track easily to 60. Definitely will. That is better than I thought. This engine is strong. I just wish it sounded better. It's like So then, what's my final verdict on the Cupra Leon? Should you avoid it? Should you consider it? Should you shortlist it? Or should you just go right ahead and buy it? Well, I reckon you should avoid the hybrid version. You should avoid the 245 horsepower version. But in the case of this 300 horsepower version, you should just go right ahead and buy it. It really is a good looking, fun to drive hot hatch that's also very practical. Hey, if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. Also, let me know of any other videos you'd like me to do in the comments below. If you click there, you can watch some more videos, and if you click on that box there, you can actually sign up to the CarWow newsletter, where we'll keep you up to date of all the latest news and reviews from the car world in between these video uploads. So just click on that, sign up, it's completely free, and of course you can cancel anytime you want to. Thanks for watching, see you next time.